If you're a stroke survivor or you love one, you've probably been told that what you got back is what you're going to keep. That recovery happens in the first 3 to 6 months, and after that you adapt. I'm going to show you why this answer is incomplete and what to do about it. Here's exactly what you're going to learn: what mainstream medicine still believes about the recovery plateau, and why that belief was built on science that is now 70 years out of date. What is exactly happening inside your brain when progress slows down, because it's not what most patients are told. Specific things you can do right now to push past that plateau. This is not vague encouragement. You're going to walk away with a plan. Before we start, my name is Dr. Clarke. I am a board-certified physical medicine and rehabilitation physician. I am also a Ph.D. neuroscientist. I have spent more than 40 years on hospital rounds with stroke and brain injury patients. And at the same time, I've been contributing to the basic neuroscience research literature. That gives me a view from both sides of a gap that has been widening for decades, a gap between what neuroscience knows and what the bedside medicine actually does about it. Let's start with a belief, because once you see where it came from, you will understand why it's so hard to shake. By the way, if you're interested in the labs that I draw on my patients, click the link in the description. All right, let's settle in and we'll take this one piece at a time. In the early 1900s, one of the most respected scientists of his era, a man named Santiago Ramon y Cajal, said that you're born with a certain number of neurons and that's all you're ever going to get. If you lose some to a stroke, you cannot grow new ones. That single idea became gospel for the next 70 years. It shaped how every doctor was trained. It shaped what families were told. My own mother, when I was leaving for college, said to me, "Lou, you only have so many brain cells. Do not lose any." That belief is the foundation underneath the words your doctor probably used after your stroke. Most of your recovery happens in the first 6 months. What you have is what you're going to keep. Those sentences are echoes of a 100-year-old assumption. Then, in 1990s, a scientist discovered something that should have changed everything. The adult brain has stem cells, and those stem cells can mature into functional neurons that integrate into the existing circuits. New neurons, new connections, new brain. That discovery is now 35 years old, and yet most stroke care in this country is still being delivered as if that discovery never happened. So, if the old belief is wrong, what's actually going on inside your brain when progress slows? When a stroke hits, blood flow to a part of the brain is cut off. Cells in that area die quickly, but the damage does not stop there. In the hours and days that follow, 3 destructive processes take over. We call them oxidation, excitotoxicity, and inflammation. I call it the neurodestructive sequence. Free radicals tear up cell membranes. Glutamate, which is normally a helpful messenger, leaks out and becomes toxic to the cells around it. Then inflammation sweeps in to clean up the damage. And if that inflammation never shuts off, it keeps killing more cells, week after week. That's why a patient can come into the emergency room with a weak arm and within 24 hours cannot move the entire right side of the body or speak. The injury is not finished. The chemistry is still on fire. Now, in standard rehab, the focus is on retraining the surviving brain. Therapists work hard, patients even work harder. Progress comes fast at first, then it slows. Then it seems to stop. That's the plateau. Here's what most people are not told. The plateau is not the brain giving up. The plateau is what happens when therapy keeps asking the brain to rewire, but the chemistry needed to actually build new connections is not available. The brain's asking for raw materials. Nobody's delivering them. Which means rebuilding the brain takes 2 things working together, not just one. 2 things rebuild a brain after a stroke: chemistry and challenge. Most rehab programs give you one of those, the challenge. They do not give you the chemistry, and without the chemistry, the challenge has nothing to build with. The chemistry is not a mystery. To grow a new connection, your brain needs 5 specific categories of raw material. Each one has its own job. Cholesterol and phospholipids, the bricks of every brain cell membrane, and the myelin that wraps around the nerve fibers. Without them, no connections can form. Vitamin A works with cholesterol and sonic hedgehog signaling to tell the stem cell what kind of brain cell to become. Zinc and B vitamins. These run the enzymes that build everything above. Zinc also grows new blood vessels into the damaged area. Neurosteroids, DHEA and pregnenolone. They wake up the stem cells. They also strengthen the new connections, a process called long-term potentiation. CoQ10 and acetyl L-carnitine. These power the mitochondria. Building new brain takes enormous horsepower, and the cells running on empty cannot do it. If any of these are low, and after a stroke they often are, the orchestra cannot play. You can do all the therapy in the world, the brain still cannot build what you're asking it to build. Now the second piece, challenge. New brain cells do not connect themselves to anything useful unless you give them a job to do. A patient practicing walking, a patient working on a speech, a grandmother trying to button her shirt. That repetitive, focused effort is what tells a new neuron, this is the circuit you belong in. And when both are present, here's what I have actually seen in patients. Over the past 20 years, I've watched a pattern repeat itself in my rehab patients. About 2 weeks after we start supporting the chemistry the brain needs, small functional changes begin. A finger twitches. A word comes back. Over the next 3 to 4 weeks, more muscles get recruited. More words, more function. That timeline tracks exactly with the timeline of new stem cells maturing into functional neurons and integrating into the existing networks. And these are often patients who had been told years earlier that they were finished. 6 years out from a stroke, 8 years out. Their therapist would come find me on rounds and say, Dr. Clarke, Mrs. Jones is starting to move her paralyzed arm. The brain also uses something called long-term potentiation. The more often a new circuit fires, the stronger it gets. The neurosteroids DHEA and pregnenolone have been shown to enhance this process in the memory centers of the brain. And that is why repetition matters. When I tell a patient to give it a few weeks, that is not encouragement. That's biology. So what do you actually do with all of this? Here's the plan. 3 things you can do right now. 3 things. You can start any of them this week. 1, stop accepting the plateau as the end. The plateau is a signal, not a verdict. It is your brain telling you something's missing. Usually chemistry, sometimes the right kind of challenge, often both. If you keep believing the door's closed, you stop knocking. The patients I see who break through are the ones who refuse to stop knocking. 2, get the chemistry measured. Vitamin D, B12, folate, zinc, sex hormones, estradiol, testosterone, and progesterone, DHEA, inflammation markers. If your stroke follow-up did not include any of these, your follow-up was incomplete. Print this list, bring it to your physician. We'll go deeper in on it in the next video. 3, keep challenging the brain, even when it's slow. Exercise and repetitive therapy stimulate the brain to produce BDNF and nerve growth factor, proteins that literally grow new connections. The therapy you do at home between appointments is not extra credit. It's the work. Let me leave you with the honest version of this. There is no cure for a stroke. I cannot promise any specific result. What I can tell you is that the science has changed. The brain is not a fixed organ. It is a living, repairing system. And when you give it what it needs, it often does more than anyone expected. The patients who break through the plateau usually have one thing in common. They refuse to accept that the door was closed. If this video gave you hope, or if you know a stroke survivor or caregiver who needs to hear it, please share it. Most survivors believe the wall is permanent. It isn't. A share from you might be the thing that changes that for someone else. If you'd like to apply to see me for an in-person office visit, click the link in the description and a member of my staff will contact you. I am Dr. Lewis Clarke. I'll see you on the next one.